two's in the books, and we have a lot of injuries. There's only a couple teams in the league that actually have good fantasy football teams. Everybody else, your teams suck. The week 2 results, we have Betancourt, who was projected to be one of the top teams this year, is now off to an 0-2 start after I put a weak pummeling on him. We have Walsh, defeated Ross, who is not sure whether he's rebuilding or trying to compete this year.
Yeah, he's not. Ross is not sure what he wants to do with his team at this point.
We have Dan Morschauja, is basically pummeled by the best team in the league.
Listen, it's the hardest schedule in the league, you guys. It's. I'll
I don't know. I wouldn't.
It is.
Good job, Dane. And we have Mike Babetsky, who is coming out of the breaks looking like a powerhouse to the start of the season. He beat Adamus. Adamus off to an 0-2 start. Babs is up to a 2-0 start. Markov.
Surprise of the league.
Yeah.
Looking really good.
184 points.
His defense is legit. It's helping him boost every week, so pretty good.
And he just beat down AJ. AJ's off to a rough 0-2 start. And then Shane versus Trebbing. That was a really close score.
Yeah, it was.
But Treb's team, your team is trending up.
I was doing fine until Baker Mayfield threw to Odell Beckham for 89 yards.
Yeah, that's a rough one. That's like a 20-point play.
It was a big swing.
But I thought there was some shocks for the week.
I think there was a degree of certain teams you knew were going to be good, like Shane, Dane, and Betancourt's team. You knew they were going to be good, and I think you knew like me and Treb's team were trending up. But like Markov's team really surprises me.
He's 2-0.
He's 2-0, and Treb's team. I thought Treb's team would be good, but I didn't know it'd be that good. Like it seems like it's really trending up nicely. This is going way back. I would have thought Ross's team
would be competing for the playoffs.
I didn't think he would be rebuilding at week 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's had some bad luck with injuries.
No, yeah, totally. Like that, and some of the trades, and he's making good, but he got some good value for trades to start rebuilding. So once you kind of get that ball rolling, I think you just go all in on
he's still got to fill things out. Like this is the best part about like fantasy is even if you have that 0-2 start, so many people battle back, get into the playoffs, win championships.
And we mentioned it a little last week. One of the things I love about Dynasty is seeing like in the first couple of years, like it was tough. Like if you were bad, like that because there was no rookie pool, the waiver wire was pretty dry.
Yeah. Because
we've now had 3 drafts, right? That waiver pool is a lot more like lush, I'm going to say. Like there's a lot of players where like there's still, long shots, but there's enough guys where if you're like, oh man, I want to make a change, you could find a guy in there that you like.
Yeah, and there's defensive players in there that you have to roster, so it kind of gives you a little bit more space to work with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the main thing is Betancourt. This is not to go to my game to put attention on me, but I expected Betancourt to be 2-0 up to this point. And
well, I mean, that means you expected him to beat me, which is just wrong.
Yeah, I mean, and part of it is
now you understand
Alvin
why
Kamara.
I was saying.
I mean, he had Alvin Kamara and Mike Evans.
Yeah,
and even Devontae Adams. Those are 3 guys that are top tier talents that have really had bad first 3 weeks.
And one of those things is starting off 0-2. Mike Evans and Kamara. We'll get into that when the game comes around. I mean, there's going to be issues to be worried about them a bit going forward.
Kamara, big time.
Yeah. Similar to the Big Ben thing, like. We're going to see defenses make these adjustments. You saw it with the Jets game, with the Browns. You saw it in the Jaguars game, and you saw it in those games. When those quarterbacks go down, it's a lot easier to play defense.
Yeah, big time. So what was the first game of the week?
So before we go into the last game, last week we made a lot of intelligent, really smart commentary, I feel like.
It's because I wasn't here to correct you.
Trev wasn't here. But the 3 things I'll mention is don't worry too much about Amendola Hawkinson. 22 combined targets in week 1. We said to go in on them. 3 total targets in week 2.
Small sample size. We're reacting off of a first week insane target share and week 2 bad. Amendola, I kind of agree that maybe we can be a little more cautious
in the fantasy football world. A lot of the fantasy footballers would say to pump the brakes.
Yeah, I think one of the
slow
things
down
is,
a little bit.
I don't think it's necessarily terrible. Like I still like Amendola and I really like Hawkinson.
I think
the main takeaway is is Galladay is the hard number one there. And they just got back to that. And even Marvin Jones Jr. had more targets. So I don't think that's a bad thing.
They have a lot of targets.
It was just that's a big discrepancy. 22 targets down to 3. Yeah. That's big.
Yeah.
The second correction I had, the Bengals. We talked about how good they looked. They looked about what I expected out of them this week. They looked like they regressed a big step.
Their passing offense is a little bit more open.
The Bengals lost to the 49ers 17-41.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, it was real bad.
Yeah. But for fantasy perspective,
yes,
it's not the end of the world because their receivers ended up scoring pretty big.
I'm just talking about our corrections. And the last one, the Bucks and the 49ers, nice surprise, kind of a turnaround for both those teams. We thought both of them were going to be hot garbage. They both showed a lot more than I thought they had after week 1, which could just be them knocking the rust off.
Yeah, I think the Bucks are still hot garbage.
Yeah, but okay, so
the 49ers looked very good.
Bucks still hot garbage. 49ers, it's their defense more so.
So we'll get there. So the first game, so we can talk about it on Thursday, the Bucks and the Panthers. The Bucks win 20-14 against the Panthers.
Cam Newton looked so bad.
Yeah,
it's like you'd see him on the sideline. He'd just look at the tablet and just throw it on the ground, and it was like. It's like he wasn't even there. It was eye opening.
This was a Carolina home game.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
so and it's a short week. So this other team's coming in. You should have such an advantage to not be able to punish Tampa Bay, who is already struggling to form their identity
and
to
had
start
a bad
the
week
season.
1.
And it's just such a hard pivot because the Panthers looked good against the Rams in week 1. They almost won that game. And you go here, Cam Newton, we talked a little bit about it. It's getting confusing now because now we're saying his shoulder's hurt again, but he doesn't, even on short throws, it can't be that hurt when he's playing. He was 25 of 51.
Wow.
It was horrible. And he's missing every type of throw. He flat throws in the dirt, over the heads on middling routes. Long balls, he's not close on long balls.
And McCaffrey, they almost cut out of the offense compared to the first week where he had like 1 million targets.
DJ Moore and Olsen trended way up, which was nice, but McCaffrey way down.
Yeah.
I think the take from it for me was Tampa Bay's defense was adjusting for McCaffrey, make Cam try and beat you.
And he didn't.
Apparently he has a foot issue still or something now. The throwing, this is a big thing when it comes to DJ Moore. He wanted to go to him to get him the targets, but some of those balls were so bad.
Yeah. DJ Moore's targets were way up. His catches were still 6. I think he had over 10 targets. So it's still the accuracy is just not there.
But that also could have been a little bit of game script where he ended up getting a little more targets.
And in terms of fantasy, I do think the Bucks looked a lot better. I still struggle with any Bucks player. Even Mike Evans, which I'm just I don't get how Mike Evans isn't a totally viable fantasy prospect. Jameis Winston's just not consistent. Even in a game where they win and he plays exponentially better, it's just really hard to get on board with any
Peyton
Bucks.
Barber the ball a lot.
Yeah.
They fed him the ball 25, 30
which
times
is
or something
Which is
like
weird
that.
because who's the younger kid there?
Ronald Jones.
Ronald Jones seems like he's kind of becoming an afterthought. And we were very excited about him,
This is also week to week. Peyton Barber, a nice uptick. Evans and Godwin will still be fine for the rest of the fantasy season. I wouldn't get too worried.
I think this is the time you should be buying Mike Evans because there's no way he stays this far down. He's been so consistent every other year.
And I think once you get into that Bruce Arians system more, I want to say Jameis plays better. And at worst case, what you saw in this game was they're going to throw the ball a ton. There's going to be targets there for Mike Evans.
And let's not look away from O.J. Howard.
Yeah.
0 points.
0. Yeah, that's a rough one.
That is
0 J Howard.
0 J Howard. Yeah, no J Howard.
That's what I mean. Is anybody on the Bucks I struggle with? Just because you don't know what you're going to get week to week.
So I still start Evans next week. I still start Godwin next week. The rest of the team I'm probably passing on, including Peyton Barber, because
it's too tough.
He doesn't get passes. He runs, and maybe if he scores a touchdown, that's great. But
unless you're struggling on running back,
if you need something, he will get the attempts, but I wouldn't expect more than 60 yards, maybe a touchdown.
One other note. This is part 1 of Markov's huge game. Luke Kuechly, 17 tackles.
Crazy.
17 tackles, not even close to his all-time record in a game, 24, but 17 points.
Well, that's because they ran the ball so much.
That's just crazy, though. He's all over the field. He's still so good. It's ridiculous.
With the increased tackles, the CTE opportunity goes up, too.
That's true.
On that high note, let's move on. The next game, first game on Sunday, was Cardinals-Ravens. Ravens win 23-17.
Closer than I thought it would be.
Yeah, the Cardinals still confuse me. They are so inconsistent. That offense, I don't know if they're trying to wrap their heads around it. The Ravens, Yeah.
300-yard passing games.
It is the Ravens.
No
so
touchdowns.
we don't get a clear identity on the Arizona offense still because this is the Ravens defense, probably the best defense.
Yeah, it's funny. The Ravens are one of those teams where you talk about these teams every year that are good. The Ravens more so than any of them, I feel like.
They fly under the radar every year, too.
It's weird. They only lost. I mean, they didn't only lose people, but they lost, Terrell Suggs. They lose Eric Weddle, but you forget they get Earl Thomas. They get some young pass rushers. They're so good. You know, they're way better than I thought they were. Lamar Jackson still looks like he's taking a huge leap forward, which is a huge pro.
He's throwing the
linebacker core is still a little weak.
Yeah. You lose C.J. Mosley. Their defense isn't quite as good. Like I would have thought they would have stomped the Cardinals, but that offense still went up. I mean, Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown, I would have thought before the season those were both nobodies, and now it's like, man, if you can still get them in leagues.
I still think it might be partially a mirage with Lamar Jackson, and this is someone who has many shares of Lamar Jackson. Because I mean, if you look at his stats from last year, he was throwing the ball like 20 times, which is about what he's thrown this time.
Yeah.
And he'd complete maybe like 14 of them, and he'd maybe put up 190 yards, and he'd maybe throw for 1 touchdown. Whereas these weeks, he's throwing for 300 yards. He's throwing for 5 touchdowns.
Playing against Miami and Arizona.
Exactly.
Agreed.
So.
But even in this game, he hung in there. Like with Suggs and Chandler Jones, you would have thought with the pressure, he would have been apt to run, and he didn't. He hung in the pocket and made throws. It was impressive. And you think at some point, if he does get pressured, he still can run. He hasn't run yet. So I agree, like, there's a mirage there, but right now he's trended way up in the first 2 weeks.
To me,
and if like you can still get him in league, like, be all over that because he's still available in a lot of leagues.
For me, right now, Mark Andrews, Marquise Brown are my big sellers right now.
Oh yeah,
get rid of Mark Andrews if you can and pick up some because he's getting a ton of targets. I just don't think they can sustain it when they're only throwing the ball like 20, 25 times.
Mark Andrews for sale.
And Hayden Hurst, their other tight end, isn't fully healthy. So once he gets healthy, you'd think that they would start playing their second-round pick more than Mark Andrews. The other thing, Buda Baker on the Cardinals defense, if you can still snag him if you need an IDP, 11 tackles. He's all over the field.
For a safety, too,
right? For a safety. Yeah. So that's a nice defensive player, a safety, getting 11 tackles. And they don't have a super strong linebacking core, so that's why he's stepping up and doing a lot of the run stop. Next game, you good on that game? Chargers Lions. Everyone saw this one coming. Chargers 10, Lions 13. I was so confused by this game. Yeah. I was baffled.
I'm baffled by the Chargers linebacking decisions over the past 2 years. Denzel Perryman he's barely out there.
Yeah.
Is he hurt?
He was like their go-to guy in previous years. Something's off. So they're going with the
I don't believe he was on the injury report either. That was the big thing.
Yeah. So like something is changing fundamentally with the linebacking core in I was going to say San Diego with the Chargers.
They'll always be in San Diego.
Yeah. I mean, their defensive line and secondary is so good, but I mean, Derwin James is hurt too. Mm-hmm. So the defense is a little bit compromised. The offense, the one thing I'll say with the offense is every quarterback runs in this. Phillip Rivers, great guy, and I know everyone was like, this is going to be his year, and he looks slower and older. Yeah. Like, he really does. We talked about it a little last week, and Jim mentioned it last week, how slow his throwing motion is. So I'm watching the game, and I'm like, oh my God, it really is. Wow. And he always had that really like stilted, quick throw. And now it's that same throwing motion, but for some reason you're like, why is it taking 5 seconds? Like he's not moving as quick and throws aren't quite as on point. So I think there's a couple quarterbacks. Even the class after, I mean, they're getting old. I mean, not everybody plays till 43,
Andrew Luck.
Yeah. But I mean, even like Matt Ryan, like some of these older quarterbacks don't look as sharp. Yeah. So, I mean,
I guess they are actually finally hitting that cliff. It seemed like seemed like 4 years ago we were like, guys, Drew Brees is too old. He's not going to play anymore. And then every year we're like, oh, he's good again. Oh, he's good again. And then now it's like, maybe he'll be good again. And then now it looks like he's actually, I mean, he got hurt, but a lot of these guys looks like.
On the other side of it with Detroit, like the way that offense is seeming to fall in line is more of a spread out, take what they give you type approach
which seems to be great.
Great for a team trying to win a game.
Not
fantasy production, no bueno.
So like that's what we kind of talked about right in the corrections was that if you're a Galladay, guy, that's awesome. He had a huge game, but
is he going to be consistent?
That you have no reason to think it's not going to revert back. They have it's really in a sneaky way. They have so many targets. They
do. It's
2 tight ends. They have Hawkinson, of course, and Jesse James, Marvin Jones, Kenny Galladay, Danny Amendola, Kerryon Johnson. It's a lot. And Stafford, love him or hate him, he's really good at moving the ball throughout, you know, and he's really
Spreading
accurate. So he makes really good reads. So he's going to spread the ball out and he's going to take what the defense gives him. So I don't think it's coincidence that in the first week, like I said, Amendola and Hawkinson combined 22 targets. Defense focuses on them. He finds the other options.
Right.
And Galladay exploits it.
And they win.
So that's a great win for the Lions, especially if you look at the Lions schedule coming up and that division as a whole. That's a great win. The Chargers, I'd be a little bit concerned. Austin Eckler still look good, but it just doesn't look as good as last year.
Do you know who the number one running back in fantasy is?
Is it Austin Eckler?
Austin Eckler.
Okay.
Hard to believe.
It is hard to believe. Next game, Colts-Titans. That's a good game. Colts win 19-17.
It's a lot of close games.
Yeah. The Colts.
Spoilers, there will be a lot of not close games also.
Yeah,
but that's
there's just how it was organized. Colts, that's a great win for the Colts. The Colts played 2 really good games. Week 1, they played a really good game and ended up losing. You play the Titans. We sung the Titans praises all last week, and I still really like the Titans. That's just a really good win for the Colts.
Brissett looks awesome.
Yeah.
He looks like he's grown up a lot in the past couple of years.
My notes are really that a lot of the values in this game between the Titans and the Colts are everything is what you kind of expect now, but you're to get out of the Colts players what you expect without Andrew Luck at the quarterback. That's a win.
Yeah.
Like you would think like Andrew Luck retires. Oh man,
T.Y.
Hilton, Ebron, like all those guys, they're gonna struggle. They still good. Ebron had a touchdown. T.Y. Hilton had a big game. So I'd be stoked if I mean Ross isn't here, but Colts fans and anybody who owns a Colts player, like I wouldn't be like, oh man, we got to sell.
It's not
Marlon
misery.
Mack had significant carries too.
Yeah.
And Marlon Mack was on the field a lot.
The only one I wouldn't get super stoked about, people will start overreacting because Paris Campbell had a touchdown. And it'll be like, oh, now we're getting Paris Campbell. Paris Campbell in that touchdown, he had 1 catch on 1 target for 1 touchdown. So I wouldn't, even though we had a touchdown and it's it was a 30-yarder, so that's a 10-point game. I wouldn't be overreacting on Paris Campbell quite yet.
Titans side, I see like Henry seems like a great sell high right now. And I also am looking at their linebacking core. Jayon Brown is the guy that you want out of the linebacker core. Rashaan Evans, I went and tried to get him in rookie drafts previous years. He's starting to reach that point of, this guy might be droppable.
2 inside linebackers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the Titans are interesting. Their defense is still awesome, and Derrick Henry is... I like Derrick Henry. I still think it's tough.
Runner.
He's a downhill runner. There's going to be games where if you play a stout defense with that running style, you're not going to get a lot. But there's going to be times when you break a defensive line. He's going to have games where he's got 150 yards with 2 touchdowns.
I mean, to me, he seems very touchdown dependent to be that top tier running back.
Agreed.
Because he doesn't catch the ball. I mean, he could run for 100 yards and not score a touchdown. It's only 10 points.
His perceived value is the highest it's ever been.
One of my biggest problems with the Titans is I think we're also getting into this time with Mariota where I'm less and less impressed by Marcus Mariota. He misses a lot of throws. He doesn't seem to have a total command on that offense. And if teams start realizing that, you start stacking the box against a running back that big, and you're going to see that that's going to be a consistent thing we're going to say is defenses are going to adjust, and if you don't have the quarterback in place, they're going to stack the box and go beat us with the quarterback. Unless it's the Patriots, and then everyone will just run prevent defense and let them throw everything underneath.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting what Tennessee does with Mariota after his contract kind of runs its course, because a lot of these guys that are mediocre quarterbacks are going to be getting big contracts, so it's going to be interesting to see if he just moves on from Tennessee drafts a quarterback, or if they're good and they make the playoffs, they just keep him and pay him. Maybe.
I mean, that's the whole thing I kind of said, like, what does he do? But at this point with Vrabel and how that offense works, he doesn't need to win games. And if you compare him to like game managers in the past, like if you compare him to Blake Bortles, like I would love Mariota over like a Blake Bortles. Even when the Ravens won the Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer, it's like Mariota's a good quarterback. I just don't think he's on that elite level where if you have to throw the ball to win, he's going to be able to do that.
The other side for fantasy on this is QBs are starting to go down and they're starting to become issues. Mariota, the natural perception, and I'm in the same boat of not liking Mariota, but the value is so low to buy, and the opportunity might exist
young quarterback
in your contract year where you need to perform. Yeah. Once they start getting a couple more losses, he might be overdoing it, trying to get more points than needed, and that might actually lead to significant fantasy production. Probably a waiver wire add in redrafts.
Interesting, yeah.
I mean, he's a good backup to have. But yeah, that was a really good game. I think those two teams the Colts are surprising. I think the Titans are built to win all year. Even though they lost this game, I just think they're a really good team. Next game, 49ers, Bengals, 49ers 41, Bengals 17.
Crazy storyline.
That is
crazy scoreline.
A blowout. The Bengals, like I said earlier, they looked a lot more like the team I expected them to be with this game. The 49ers looked like you got that first glimpse of if stuff worked the way they wanted it to. Shanahan's the head coach. You got all those pieces, and you got Garoppolo. That was the first glimpse of like, ooh, this is what I want if I'm a 49ers fan.
Yeah,
Garoppolo looked
on
good.
Their third string running back, and still.
Yeah, the fourth string kid looked really
monster.
good.
Yeah, Monster looked like a monster.
It was pretty funny. Garoppolo looked great. One of the things I love, Deebo Samuel looks awesome.
Yeah, Deebo looks good.
Looks great.
You know who doesn't look good?
Pettis?
Dante Pettis.
Dante Pettis. He is a non-option in that offense.
His snaps went up a significant amount, though. So, but like he got no targets.
Do you know what his stat line was? One pass completed. He threw a pass complete, had no receptions.
That's crazy.
Like it's so strange. We talked about it a bunch last week. He's one of those weird things where I don't get what his value is, because if you look at where he was drafted and what that offense is, you think, oh, like that's a perfect fit, and they just don't seem to want anything to do with him.
He's not for trade.
Okay,
everybody.
He's got Jim, your guy had an awesome game also. Ross had another huge game. The Bengals receiver, John Ross. 4 receptions, 112 yards, and a touchdown. That's another nice
Wasn't
game.
one of them like a garbage time thing, though?
Yeah, but I mean,
garbage time still counts.
No, I mean, it still counts for the production, but like the perception of the reality of what you think you might be getting.
Yeah. I mean, and the other thing, too, is once A.J. Green's healthy again, John Ross is...
Yeah.
A.J. Green, sounds like he's not coming back anytime soon.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, and the one thing I would be a little disappointed on, Trev, you can speak on it, Mixon seems to be a little disappointing already.
Yeah, big time.
Everyone had hopes on him this year of being like a top 3 back, and he just is not.
I think part of it is he got injured in the first game, so his first game was a wash. He was injured in either the second or third quarter, and then the second game his snap count was down. They actually had Giovanni Bernard on a decent amount, so playing from behind, they're not going to run the ball as much. So I think a lot of it has to do more with game scripting and injury. But yeah, I'm a little worried.
Yeah. O-line is a concern too.
Yes,
still.
Yeah, that's a good point, man.
But that's it for that. I mean, the 49ers look good, and Bengals look bad. 49ers look surprisingly good.
I'm not getting my hopes up on Garoppolo right now.
Yeah, he looked good in that game, but that was the thing is in week 1 he did not look good at all.
Yeah.
So
and they beat the Bengals.
Yeah, and that's 41-17
Grain
against
of salt.
the Bengals. Next game, Jaguars-Texans. Jaguars 12, Texans 13. That was a rough one for both teams. I didn't think either one of those teams looked good. I thought they both looked like garbage. I mean, you see the thing in the news now, Jaguars, Jalen Ramsey is probably going to be out of there pretty quickly. That defense is falling apart from the one that got them to the AFC Championship game 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a shell of its former self.
But that quarterberut, though, he's cool.
Gardner Minshew, he's a cool guy.
Minshew.
I say it all the time. I forget there's an N in there. But it was like in the first game, you see this a lot where you put a fresh quarterback in. He doesn't know that he's supposed to fail. So he has an awesome game, and now they're like, all right, you're going to start.
He's fearless.
And now that he's starting, it's a much more mediocre progress. And this was another game, like I said before, that the Texans were going to go, all right, that kid is not going to beat us. Have fun running Fournette because we're going to put 9 guys in the box.
Yeah.
And we're going to run cover 1 and go for it. And the Jaguars did not look good. The only thing with the Jaguars that looked good was DJ Chark, which is another Markov. He has a nice amount of targets, 9 targets, 7 catches on 9 targets.
He's their number one.
He's their number one guy. Marquise Lee's still not totally back. He was a game time scratch. But DJ Chark was a guy they took early on, so I would see them with him playing well. I would see them keep going there.
Yeah, if anything from the Jaguars, the only stuff I want to touch is Leonard Fournette and DJ Chark if I need a flex play and I'm in trouble throughout the season, see where it grows.
Yeah.
The only thing
is too much unknown.
Yeah, the Jaguars, the only other thing on defense, Ronnie Harrison, which I have him in our league, he's a nice IDP. He is their starting strong safety, and he had 11 tackles. And if you are doing another dynasty, he's a great, nobody has him on their team. JJ, on the other hand, on the Texans, who's everyone expects JJ to do well. He's getting double teamed and he's not getting through him.
No, he's not.
Ever since they let go of Clowney, that seems like that Clowney thing is going to be one of those domino things where teams are going, you don't have Clowney now. Now we can just double team JJ. And JJ's got 0 sacks through 2 games and 1 tackle, I think it is. It's bad.
Yeah.
So Texans are struggling.
And Merciless had a strong showing.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those things where, I guess that's the only thing is, do they move the double teams over there? But it just, that defense, that Texans defense doesn't look quite, neither one of those defenses those were 2 defenses where in previous years they were awesome.
Just between like McKinney, Zach Cunningham and Merciless. It seems
It's
like
spread
their
around.
linebacking core is above average. It's not bad. It's above average. It's not great.
Yeah.
But with Merciless, if he continues
Merciless, I wouldn't mind Merciless because he kind of plays more of that outside linebacker getting into coverage. He's going to get a lot of tackles. He's going to rush the passer. But he's also going to get a ton of tackles in coverage. So JJ, though, you expect to be that DN that's getting a sack and getting you a couple points every game with a sack and a couple tackles. No tackles is just rough. Yeah. That's a rough one. Vikings, Packers. Vikings 16, Packers 21. That's the Packers look like they may be back to form from what they were a couple years ago.
The Vikings aren't throwing the ball.
No, Dalvin Cook is huge up, but it's not paying dividends.
No, yeah, it's really interesting. Kirk Cousins and that offense. It seemed like those two were always set in, and Kyle Rudolph, from a fantasy perspective, they were always consistently getting 6 to 7 catches, 80 yards, couple touchdowns, but. I mean, I don't even know how many times they threw the ball, but it was like insanely low.
The problem too is Kirk Cousins he hasn't been super accurate. Like one of the notes I had was that Stephon Diggs, which that's a good receiver. He had 7 targets, 1 reception. That's not good. If you're getting targeted 7 times, there's no way you want.
It depends on the targets, though. If they're actually real targets that he can possibly catch, or just thrown in your direction and uncatchable.
Yeah. But with your number 1 receiver, I would expect you to get him involved in a way that 7 targets at least, you're going to get 3 to 4 of those.
No, I agree. I just I didn't get to see that game.
I got you.
So I don't this is the problem with perception of what targets are. Somebody can say somebody had 10 targets, but if only 3 of those balls were actually catchable, I don't value 10 targets the same when a guy's not really getting catchable targets.
I would agree with you if it was 3 targets, and I don't know what they are, but if someone's getting 7 targets, some of them have got to be catchable, and he didn't catch any. He only had 1 catch.
I mean, Kirk Cousins was 14 for 32 that game.
That's horrible.
That's bad.
Yeah.
maybe that's more of the story is okay, everybody knows Dalvin Cook's great, and he's doing phenomenal on the block, 2 first plus starting running back. But at the same time, Kirk Cousins is... he was great in fantasy a couple of years ago. What's happened? Why is this? What is the offensive scheme that is changing so much? Because Adam Thielen is struggling a little bit too.
And I wouldn't quite overreact yet to the Vikings offense. It's only been 2 weeks.
Yeah. That Packers D is sneaky good. They were good against the Bears, and we were kind of like, oh, Trubisky stinks. Yeah. And they're good against the Vikings, and maybe that defense is a lot better than we realize.
I know in previous years, if you got struck by tight end not performing for you, so you start looking for ones that are out there, usually you'd be like, oh, Kyle Rudolph, I would take him.
Yeah.
You don't even want to. He's out on every waiver wire. Nobody wants to pick him up.
I mean, that's not just Kyle Rudolph though, right?
3 catches, 9
Adam
yards.
Thielen, Ross was trying to move Thielen, and there was not a whole lot of interest from what I garnered. It's not any one player other than Dalvin Cook. I don't think you want a receiving target on the Vikings right now.
Yeah, I mean, next week, who do they play next week? Do we know?
I don't know. I mean,
Raiders. I'm starting Diggs, Thielen. Probably starting Kyle Rudolph if I have to. I don't love it. I'm starting Dalvin Cook. I'd probably hold off on.
I think the Vikings are still just an anomaly. You don't know what you're going to get out of those players. The good thing is if you have Packers players, a lot of them look back to form. Aaron Jones looked sick.
Yeah.
And after week 1 against that Bears defense, there was some concern of whether were we overvaluing him? Was this just another Packers running back that had one good year kind of, and now he's fine by the way.
Was this the game where Geronimo had more relevance in the game than MVS?
I think Allison scored a touchdown.
But he only had... The receptions were about the same. Devontae Adams was the only one that went heavy on receptions. Allison had a touchdown. Their backup tight end had a touchdown.
Sternberger?
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
Aaron Jones had the other touchdown. MVS, I mean, it worries me. He's on the field 100% of the time. I sung his praises. I still like him. He's on the field 100% of the time. He just doesn't seem to be finding the targets.
Yeah.
So
Scantling and Allison basically had the same game.
Yeah.
Allison had 4 for 25 and a touchdown. Scantling had 3 for 19 and a touchdown. So a lot of low. I mean, other than Devontae Adams, who averaged 15 per catch, all these guys averaged. Aaron Jones 8.5, John Allison 6.2, Valdez Scantling 6.3, Jamal Williams 4.3. For Aaron Rodgers, who was always a big thrower and always had these high yards per attempt, yards per catch. These are some pretty low numbers.
That's the LaFleur system, though. Like that's the system
but that's what we have
run
to be
the ball,
used to.
throw underneath, play action. And the whole point of that system was they were saying it's going to be interesting to see Aaron Rodgers adjust to it because he's going to have to do a lot of run and then play action and not get that over the stuff. The sky's the limit, though. With Aaron Rodgers in that system, can you get all of those tiers? Can you get running game, play action, and deep ball? Right now, the Packers look trending up as a team. I think they still have a lot to figure out. But they look good. They look really good. Next game, Cowboys, Redskins. Cowboys 31, Redskins 21.
Oh, we can make this one quick. Dan, you
Cowboys
can start.
are so dumb. They look good.
That's pretty good. That's
They
pretty
look
good. Next game.
Yeah.
Listen. They a lot of the same. I mean, we were talking a little earlier. Redskins and the Giants are not the most intimidating teams, but what you're seeing out of the Cowboys is stuff that would work against any team. The Dak has been super accurate, which has been his big knock in the past. He has been
pay him. Two big games against two great teams.
Defense looks really good. And the other thing is, you know what? I won't talk about the Cowboys. You know what you're going to get.
Too late.
How about the Redskins? Adrian Peterson had a really nice game. That's a nice.
How about Terry McLaurin?
And Terry McLaurin. Those are my two notes. Scary Terry and Adrian Peterson both had nice games where you go, that I thought for sure the McLaurin thing after week 1, I was like, that's a.
He's getting insane snaps. He's
the
one.
Yeah.
And Adrian Peterson looks really good. Like every year, like it's crazy that he was a healthy scratch in week 1 and had a great game. So that you know, the Cowboys need a way bigger sample size. They are massively over versus the Dolphins this week. They're 21-point favorites.
Tough start to the season for the
This is always the
Cowboys.
part of the season. You know, the Cowboys get off to a good start, and then for some reason, stuff just starts falling apart. The wheels come off a little bit. When did they get
off to a good start?
Well, they always face the Giants and get that win.
That's true. That's true.
If I'm a Redskins fan, the Redskins are funny. We said this a little last week. I'm not super pissed if I'm a Redskins fan. There's
kind of excited.
There's some stuff there that I'm really excited about. You played the Eagles super hard. You played the Cowboys super hard. And Landon Collins had something like 15 tackles. It was crazy. Like, that's immediate dividends on somebody you really overpaid. Yeah. But your offense doesn't look terrible, and you have a lot of stuff waiting in the wings.
And we're going to find out this upcoming Monday night, the Redskins face the Bears. If Case Keenum keeps up the production he's been doing against the Bears, he's immediate snag off waiver wire to remedy any of your quarterback situations.
Yeah, because this is going to be a real test for them, because this is going to be a very good defense.
The Cowboys defense, the thing is, the Cowboys defense and the Eagles defense are not bad defenses. Those are two really good, those are two top 10, top 12 defenses also.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
So, I mean, I know they lost, but I'm just saying.
I'd say the Cowboys defense is like top 30, top 32.
last year they were top 10.
I know.
All right, so the next game on the docket, Seahawks-Steelers. Seahawks 28, Steelers 26. It was a good game. If I'm a Steelers fan, I mean, I'm pretty concerned.
Yeah.
I would say a fan or a fantasy owner of any player on that team.
Well, and even just being a Pittsburgh fan, didn't they just trade away their first-round pick for Minkah Fitzpatrick?
Yes.
That's
Minkah
crazy.
Fitzpatrick is a great player, but
he's not that great, right?
Yeah. It's going to be a top 10 pick if they don't.
Yeah.
We're expecting them to not do well.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, Ben's out for the year.
I mean, safety was not an issue for them. Edmonds has been looking really good.
Yeah.
And like you said, that's a team that's in win now mode. That's a trade you make if you're in win now mode and trying to put your defense over the top. And they're not.
No,
they're not.
Yeah.
From everything I've seen from them, with Ben or without Ben, they don't look good.
So if we take it separate, if we separate from the whole Ben thing or whatever, this can also just be addressing a concern of our defense is nowhere near where we need it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that might be what this is about.
I agree. So if you look, my issue with looking at it that way is Minkah Fitzpatrick is good. He was probably the best player on the Dolphins. But it's not a player where I part with my first round pick.
Oh,
especially like
agree.
I said, when you're 0-2,
agree.
your starting quarterback. I mean, at the time they knew that Ben was out for the year. So you went, our quarterback's out for the year. We don't look good on defense, and we're going to trade our first pick, which, like you said, it could be a top 10 pick. There's a lot of positions you need a lot more in that top 10. So it's just, I think it's a GM move that reeks of like just expecting to still be good, and as the Steelers, you're like, we'll still be good, and it won't be that high pick. It's like that's going to end up being a top 10 pick, and it's
they're putting a lot on Mason Rudolph. Is what they're doing. Is they're expecting him to step up and basically bring them into the playoffs when they started 0-2. So, I mean, they're already on the back foot. I think it's a bad trade. It's a trade I would make because, I mean, you lock up Minka Fitzpatrick till 2022, which is very good. He's a top-end talent. But it's a trade I would make if I'm, like, guaranteed to be playoff bound. Or one of these teams that, like, you just need that one piece. Like, someone like the Eagles would have been, like... I would have been happy trading a first-round pick for Minka Fitzpatrick.
It's just interesting. You now get two of the top... However you want to break it down, 2 of the top 5 safeties from that specific draft. Like, you would never plan for that.
Mason Rudolph, we're going to find out what's going on with him. But if he doesn't pan out this year, like, you really get a good understanding of whether this is the guy or not. That pick could be your next future quarterback.
Yeah, especially with the 4 quarterbacks, 5 if you want to get cute and you're down around the teens. I mean, if you're in the top 10, anything can happen. You trade a couple other picks, you crawl up into that top 4. You're getting one of those 4 guys, those 3 guys.
To get back to fantasy, the Steelers players, I don't want any of it.
So, I mean, of course, Ben is way down. So, with Ben going down, I go Juju trends way down. Vance McDonald, actually, for me, kind of trends up because he had a ton of targets after when Rudolph came in the game because he's checking down to him constantly, and he's a massive target.
And James Conner got banged up in the game, too.
Yeah, so I actually don't dislike Vance McDonald. He actually played better and had more targets after the switch because of the role he fills. But as a whole, the Steelers are in trouble. Yeah. I don't like that. And on the Seahawks side, the Seahawks still look good. They still have to work out. DK is trending up. DK is getting a lot of targets, and he's filling the exact role that, myself, who has him in our league, and others wanted him to fill. Like, he's their deep threat, and they're throwing jump balls to him, and Russell Wilson likes him.
Russell Wilson defies perceptions once again. This guy is top 5 fantasy quarterback for the year, and insane value. He fell extra couple rounds compared to what he was in previous years. It's just crazy to me. Why do we even fall into this mess of Russell Wilson's the 12th rated quarterback?
I don't get it. Draft. There were so many leagues that I saw or even in where people would take Russell Wilson as their backup, and you'd be like, he's going to be better than your starter. Like, you have Matt Ryan and Russell Wilson.
Yeah,
you're probably going to be playing Russell Wilson. You know what I mean?
It's kind of Rodgers, and I've started him over Rodgers the first 2 weeks,
and it's not a bad call. So, and their offense, it looks. Chris Carson still looks good. Rashad Penny actually had a better game.
I think Carson had a fumble.
Yes,
on
multiple. I think.
Yeah, I think he had 2. I think he fumbled twice, including one like in the red zone.
That's why Penny got the attention.
Yeah. So, but I think they still like Carson. I think
the receiving core still, need some help. But I think if DK can kind of provide that bigger threat, then Lockett will be more effective. Right. So the Seahawks look good. And the thing, too, is their defense, their linebacking core is legit. Clowney and that D-line look a lot better. They made some nice trades, where you want to, not when camp's over, but enough to get some guys in and affect your season. They look good. They're trending way up. Steelers trending way down. Next game, Bills-Giants. Bills 28, Giants 14. Dude, the Giants are bad.
Yeah. And the news came out yesterday.
Yep.
So Eli is on the bricks and Daniel Jones is the guy.
So I'm a Cowboys fan, but I don't really have an issue with Eli nearly as much as Cowboys fans do, or as much as Giants fans do. Eli is the least of your problems.
It's true.
It is ridiculous that you think putting in Daniel Jones at this point is going to fix anything. Yeah.
Talk about an organization crapping on the player that they've been so fond of for
this was what,
years.
3 years ago when we did this the first run, where they handled it incredibly badly, and now you're doing the same thing. This kid probably would have done better with more time.
I think the problem is that so let's take a scenario for example. Okay, it's week 2. Daniel Jones comes in and he sucks it up for 8 weeks. Do you put Eli back in? Do you just leave him out to dry? I mean, this was way too early to put Daniel Jones in.
And that's the thing is, I don't mean to knock on, but Giants fan, like, I watch because local news, so many analysts in the tri-state area are like, Daniel, it's his time, put him in. This is it. I'm like, it's 2 games. The first game Eli played good. This game he played meh, but like,
the defense is
he was
bad.
Not as bad as other quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
And he's not your problem. Your defense is so bad. It is an all-time bad defense.
It's 2 games. Your season is not over yet. If they were 0-4, 0-5 with Eli, then you start thinking about doing it. But you're giving up on your season right now. Yeah. What's that telling your players? You're giving up on them.
Yeah. Well, and like Trev said, one of the biggest if you go best case, worst case, I mean, best case for Daniel Jones, you put him in now and he's amazing. But the worst case is putting him in now. You can compromise him permanently because if you have to take him back out, if he's bad enough, he can't recover. If you would have put him in late enough season where you can just push to the end of the season, you push to the end of the season, leave him in, and then work it out in the offseason. If you have to take him out now, if he's bad enough,
what happens if he's mediocre to bad and they end up 4-12 with the number 2 or 3 pick and Tua's available?
Yeah.
Do you just take Tua? Do you just take one of these other quarterbacks? Do you abandon Daniel Jones already?
I assume you have to go. If I'm the Giants, every pick at this point in the draft next year is defense. Their offense, we talked about this a little last week.
That's a good point.
Their offense is not, if I look at the pieces on offense and I go, whether we agree with you when Daniel Jones goes in, you have your quarterback of the future, your running back is fine. You lost OBJ, but it's not, your receiving core is vastly underrated in my opinion. It's not as bad as people when he left that people are like, oh, it's terrible. And your offensive line is playing up from where they were last year. The defense is so fucking bad. Sorry. It's so bad. It's Swiss cheese. It's riddled with holes. Nobody has any problem moving the ball on them.
Yeah.
Guys are running past them. I mean, Singletary looked great. The Bills have a nice team, but you can't even tell versus the Giants because the defense is so bad.
Yeah,
One of the best highlights from the game is Josh Allen.
I love me Josh Allen. I love him.
He's they're designing plays where Frank Gore is blocking for him running the ball. That's awesome.
They have a nice, we talked about this a lot, me and Jim, about how the Patriots never have any competition. The Bills have a lot of nice pieces in place on offense and defense. Their defense is good.
Yeah.
It's legit good. And their offense, you're like, man, the nice running back, good offensive line, the quarterback looks pretty good. Next year in the draft, you kind of go after some new receivers, maybe. The Bills, I would be stoked if I was a Bills fan. This is a nice game. And I like a lot of the pieces. I sang Singletary's praises during the draft. I liked Devin Singletary a lot. And seeing him and Gore together, I'm okay with
Gore,
that.
everlasting Gore.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But next game, Patriots-Dolphins.
Unreal.
Patriots won 43-0.
It's not even
It's ridiculous. It's not even a pro game. You're a Patriots fan, so I'll give you the 4, but that's, if I'm the Dolphins, that's embarrassing. They lost 43-0 and then lost their best player.
Yeah, and then traded away their best player.
So
their best defensive player.
Yeah. They don't have any good offensive players, so
I mean, it's nothing special. I mean, Dallas is facing Miami this week. It's going to be the same thing pretty much. Yeah. Miami is drastically worse than the worst teams in the league have been in the past decade.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. The 2 0-16 teams were not nearly this bad.
Yeah, they were much better than this.
That's crazy.
This team.
The interesting stat I read was that they're on pace to break the NFL record for most worst points differential, which I think is minus 280 or something like that. And they're saying that the baseball worst point differential was 750 over 150 games, which they are also on pace to beat.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
We said this last week, and nothing.
It's a hilarious
nothing corrects.
stat, but it's crazy.
Nothing corrects. They straddled that line where when the Lions went 0-16 and the Browns went 0-16, you straddle a fine line between being bad enough where you can still recover, and being so bad that it takes multiple drafts to ever get back to okay.
Right.
And I think the Dolphins have blown past that line. Every player they've traded away, they have a ton of picks, so they could hit on a lot of those picks. I still like the Tunsil trade, the Tunsil-Stills trade. The Fitzpatrick trade they're good pick trades, but
they got Rosen at good value. But they need to
their
put him in and let him
team
play.
is so bad. They have so many holes. They have no good player. They don't have any good players.
Yeah,
they need to acknowledge in the draft.
They
need to acknowledge every position. What are you going to do? You're going to have the first overall pick. You're going to take Tua, Fromm, or Herbert. Who's going to block for them? Who are they going to throw to? Who's going to run the ball?
Yeah, they have a lot of other picks for guys that they could. They have a lot of first round picks. It's going to be interesting.
I think it's the right step.
Yeah, it's all you can do. The problem I have is not keeping your house in order and being so bad that guys are like rats on a ship.
Yeah.
And everyone wants to leave. That's a problem. You can be bad and try to keep your good pieces, but you're at the point where Minkah Fitzpatrick, other guys are I want out of here. And they're if you don't want to play here, we're going to get rid of you. And it's that's kind of rough.
Yeah.
From the other side, I mean, the good thing, the Patriots, I know it's the Dolphins, but Sony Michel had a much better game, much better, like much more of the sample size you want to see out of him. And their defense, I was looking at stats, the Patriots defense is comically balanced.
Yeah.
No guy on that defense had more than 5 tackles, but they had more players making tackles than any team in the league.
Do they run a pretty heavy rotation?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're so crazy balanced, it's annoying. Like every other team has like a couple players here and there that either have like over 10 tackles, maybe like Kuechly had 17 this week. A bunch of guys will have over. Yeah. Five was the most tackles a Patriots player had. Well, and they had a ton of tackles.
On the field a lot either. So,
I mean, they had 60 tackles. I mean, that's not bad.
The concern of the game for me, or not for the game, but the concern for me of the Patriots is Isaiah Wynn. He's on IR for, I don't know how many weeks, 6-8 weeks, something like that. So, that's left tackle situation. The Patriots were sprawling to find offensive linemen in the end of preseason to the beginning of the season. So this might be the issue that starts to, bring cracks into this foundation that the Patriots have.
And I mean, your quarterback is 47, 48, 49. He's like 72 years old.
I mean, he plays like
a 25-year-old.
A 2X Mahomes.
I'm not. That's ridiculous. That's offensive. What I'm saying, I'm not denying. He's playing great. What I'm saying is that you don't want him getting hit. You don't want a 43-year-old getting hit.
He's a rubber band.
That's why he crumples into a ball anytime someone comes near.
If your blindside tackle is on IR,
that's true.
You better find a good replacement.
Yeah, it'll happen.
All right, moving on. 2 times from home. Okay, Chiefs 28, Raiders 10. This game, so this Chiefs Raiders was. Did we all watch it? Did you see enough of it? It's the weirdest game. The Raiders go up 10-0 in the first quarter.
And I didn't see that.
And then Patrick Mahomes basically turns into Patrick Mahomes from Madden this year.
Or half the Tom Brady.
It's ridiculous. He threw 4 touchdowns and had over 300 or 270 yards passing in the second quarter.
Jesus.
It was ridiculous. At one point, he had 7 straight completions, 5 of which for over 30 yards. And 3 of them were touchdowns.
Yeah, he's a freak.
They got the ball in the 5 and scored in 3 plays. The weird thing, though, the game ended 28-10. So after halftime, they didn't do anything. And it wasn't like they weren't trying. They just didn't do much.
It's so funny. It seems like it doesn't matter what receivers they have out there. He's just going to find a way to get it to them, and they're going to look like studs. I mean DeMarcus Robinson looked like an absolute freak, and you're like...
6 catches, 172 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, like, that's... And Sammy Watkins was the guy last week where you're like, Sammy Watkins, he's back, he's insane. And it just doesn't matter. Like, he's just going to find a guy to dump it to.
The one constant, and you're lucky to have him. And every year I seem to not go this high on tight ends, but Kelsey is the constant. He's so good.
Yeah.
And he's the one constant for
running
the Chiefs.
game. Running game's an issue coming up.
They seem to be spreading it around. Like LaShawn McCoy, Damian Williams are getting touches, but they're not running the ball a whole lot. With Kareem Hunt, they did run more of a pass, and they're just passing the ball.
Yeah, the injuries are starting to add up. And this is where we're going to find out soon whether the other Williams has any value for them, or if they do get into the rookie Darwin at some point.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because, I mean, they have a lot of different options for running backs, but for skill level wise, they all seem to be like almost just on par. Yeah. He seemed to attach onto Williams at the beginning of the year and then kind of stepped back and then said, oh, no, he is. But now then they signed McCoy and they're like, oh, yeah, actually, maybe we will be a little bit split. So.
I think LaShawn McCoy actually looks the best. LaShawn McCoy looks very refreshed now. That might only last, and it might only last, and he's older. But that's the thing about the Chiefs' offense at this point is it seems like plug and play. As long as Mahomes is back there. Now, Mahomes gets hurt, one thing, but it seems like a lot of it is put these guys out there.
Whoever's out there is going
to... The throws he makes are insane. Yeah. Like, you watch him play, and it's really, really impressive. I can't remember a player in recent memory where... It might have been...
I can.
Not recent.
Yeah.
Not recent. That was like 20 years ago.
It's not the same. His arm talent is...
Yeah, you're right. It's like half.
Yeah.
The closest I can...
TB12, baby.
I'm just gonna move on. I'm gonna try to get away from the Patriots. One other note I had: Raiders. They started really well. That first quarter, they were beating the Chiefs. Darren Waller, that tight end, is really a nice pickup. He's available in most leagues, and he is a good big target.
He's a big part of that offense.
Yeah, and he's a big part of that offense. So he's way up in my book. He's one of those Hard Knock picks where he was on Hard Knocks, and every year there seems to be Hard Knocks picks that everyone's like, I'm going to take this guy, and then they're terrible.
But this one
actually panned out, so it's kind of nice.
My favorite Hard Knocks player, Antonio Brown.
Oh my God. Next.
JK.
All right.
Next.
Saints Rams. Saints 9, Rams 27. The poor Saints. Start with the obvious. Drew Brees is out 6 weeks.
I think there's a 6 to 8
with a
weeks.
torn ligament in his throwing hand. Default. Teddy Bridgewater got thrown into the fire, and he didn't look good. We were talking a little bit. I do think he will start and be their guy. I think they'll split between him and Taysom Hill, but I mean, any piece on the Saints offense you're now concerned about.
Yeah, it's and the big one that's obviously going to fall is Michael Thomas. I mean, Jared Cook was in, but he wasn't getting targets with Drew Brees like it seemed like he would, and now even with Bridgewater, I don't know if Bridgewater dumps off to tight ends a lot, but when he was in, he didn't seem to do it that much. So Michael Thomas is obviously the big hit. He still was looking for Michael Thomas a lot, but it's just not. He's not going to put up numbers like Drew Brees did.
I would contend. I would agree with you. I think the bigger hit is Kamara.
Yeah.
Michael Thomas is a receiver. He will get the ball thrown to him, and he's a possession receiver. Like, he's a big kid. Kamara was shut down when Drew went out of the game. Those checkdowns weren't there. The running game was not as impressive. They stacked the box again.
Yeah, but it's the Rams too, so they have
Agreed.
a good defensive line.
But Kamara's game usually plays well against. That's the whole thing with Kamara is his game, that bubble screen, quick run, outside run, RPOs. Plays well against every defense, and it didn't look good for the first time in like forever.
Yeah. I'll take the other end on this, where we're going to find Sean Payton to be a great coach once again.
Make it work.
He'll make this work, and it'll come at the hands of Taysom Hill.
I think it would be great if Taysom Hill.
I want for entertainment. I want to see Taysom Hill.
The cool thing about Saints games, I feel like now, is they're going to be super fun to watch because he's going to have to get real creative. And it's going to be really interesting. The cool thing about the Saints is they have so many different weapon types that they're going to have to keep defenses on their toes and just surprise people a lot. So it could be really cool.
But I think you're right. I think Peyton will find a method to make it work.
And Drew's injury is 6 weeks. So if they can stay the course and stay around 500, around just above water, Drew can come back before the end of the year, get a ton of playtime. They could be fine.
They're also in that division. They have Atlanta, who still trying to figure out stuff. Carolina, who's struggling, and Tampa Bay, who's struggling. So this is very easy opportunity path for Drew Brees coming back to take them to the playoffs.
The biggest issue the Saints will have, apparently, is the refs, because apparently the refs now are vindictive against the Saints. This is now 3 games in a row where they have basically attempted to cost them the game.
Well, it was a touchdown that they pulled back on this one.
It wasn't even just a touchdown. Did you see it? It was the defining moment of the game, and it was a massive, massive mistake.
There's the
every ref knows on that play. They said it a million times on the broadcast.
Just let it happen.
Just let it happen.
They can
call it a fumble. If you call it back, you can switch it.
It's easy, yeah.
Why call it an incompletion? And it was devastating.
Yeah.
And the whole game seemed to switch, and that's 3 in a row. That's 3 games in a row where the Saints. So that's got to be a little dejecting at this point, But that's more of a funny thing. But that was. It's always the Saints.
Rams side, it seemed they were still kind of splitting even between Cooks and Woods and Kupp. Kupp seemed to get a couple more passes, but Woods had a touchdown that was called back. He had another big catch that was called back. To me, those 3 guys are all still kind of on the same playing field. And
they looked a lot less rusty. I said in week 1, I thought the Rams looked very shell-shocked, very Super Bowl hangover, similar to the scene we saw in the Super Bowl. I felt like this game was much more the Rams we knew from last year.
And
Gurley had, like I said, it's still murky in that backfield, but Gurley got the lion's share of the touches. 20 touches total, 16 runs, 4 catches.
Beautiful.
Yeah. He doesn't look as explosive. There's something about when he's running, and he just doesn't seem to have that same
he's got a little cautiousness.
Yeah, it seems like he after he scored a touchdown, he just kind of got up and walked over. It's like, wow, you'd expect some big I'm back, it's fine, but he seemed to be a lot more.
I think that's one of those things we're just gonna have to watch. I legitimately could believe that he's at 80%, and they're telling him to stay at 80% for the whole season.
Right.
They're like, you're good enough at 80%. Stay there and don't work your knee, because we'll still win as long as. It felt like that in this game, in the first game, they almost weren't playing Gurley because they knew they were going to win. They knew they were going to beat Carolina. This one, Gurley's getting touchdown because they were like, we have to beat the Saints. We have to put every weapon out there. I do think he's on a pitch count, and it's kind of like in games where they think they're going to win or should win, he will play less.
Darrell Henderson still not showing up.
Nope, that's the biggest mystery, right? In the preseason, everyone thought that was the handcuff. He looked awesome.
I don't know why.
And now
I was a big proponent of. I mean, Darrell Henderson's nice, but he's not going to play at all. It's Malcolm Brown is the backup. In redraft leagues, I just didn't understand why people were drafting him.
I completely agree with that, but Henderson might be a great buy low in Dynasty.
I would agree with that. Yeah,
that's true.
Next game, Bears Broncos. Bears survive 16-14.
The kicker kicked a 53-yarder into the wind. This is
in Mile High. Though.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah. But no, it's into the wind.
I know.
Like if you
it's
can
still
kick
incredible.
And with the being on Chicago, that automatically adds like 10 yards to any kick.
It's an amazing feat.
It's a great story. It's a great thing for that kid.
Game was over.
The Bears. Their defense is so legit, but they don't look good.
Yeah, Mitch Trubisky.
They don't look good. There was a quote that by their defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, who we're familiar with, who was like, they're so good, I just don't want to screw it up. And it's like, I almost just want to get out of the way.
Yeah.
And they're getting in the way on offense for the most part. Not really defense, but they're making the Bears worse. Nagy's play calling once again was really poor in my opinion. Every player on the Bears I'd be super concerned about. Allen Robinson gets the most touches, but Trubisky he looks terrible. Like, it's just not good. Their defense is awesome. Yeah. They had 3 players with 10 or more tackles.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm still not out on the Bears just yet because I mean it's still only 2 weeks in. Maybe
with that defense, you can win any game.
It was Denver too. Yeah. Denver defense is not like
at home, and Denver was at home too. So I mean, I'm not out on the Bears just yet. I think David Montgomery could step it up. I'm not really in love with starting any other guys except for maybe Robinson, I guess. And if I guess Montgomery's okay to start or maybe flex in, but I'm not in love with it. Who are they? Do we know who they're playing next week? I'd wait to see until once they face like a defense that's
they're facing Washington.
I don't think I'm
Monday night game.
I don't want it to be that I'm super soured on them as a team because with that we said this a lot. With that defense, you can win any game.
I'm sour on Trubisky, not the weapons.
Agreed. Okay. That's the problem, is that after last year going to this year, the defense did nothing but get better. And you go, we're going to take a big step forward on offense. Nagy's in his second year of play calling. Trubisky's in his second year in that system. We only have added players with Montgomery. Trey Burton's in the second year in that system. We're going to be better. And they're so much worse on
And
offense.
You saw how good Tariq Cohen was last year.
Yeah.
And like you're just not dialing into him. I'm not saying that you need to do the same volume.
Yeah.
But David Montgomery is a good tool to use too. But they're not even utilizing Cohen.
Well, they're putting Cohen in as a slot receiver.
Exactly.
A lot of plays.
But he's right. Like even the place he's going in, they're not utilizing him. Same thing. Cordero Patterson. Once again, why did we go out and get him?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because we don't know how to use him. We should have spent that money elsewhere.
Yeah.
The play calling just looks super confusing, and they don't help Trubisky out at all.
Yeah.
It's one of those things with a young quarterback. And a good running game and a good offensive line. Just run play action. It works.
I'm going to be honest. I'm expecting a big bounce back week from the Bears next week.
Okay.
Facing Washington, I think you're going to be surprised. I think they're going to put up big numbers.
Well, I hope so. Roquan Smith, Danny Trevathan, Eddie Jack. every player on that defense. Khalil Mack got there once, and he's a monster, and he's disrupting. They're good at every level. Ton of tackles there. Their defense is so good. It's just going to be a shame if they just can't put it together on offense. Next game, Eagles-Falcons. Eagles 20, Falcons 24. Eagles had a few injuries.
That was brutal. I was in a fantasy league where I had Wentz and Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey, and I needed about 30 points from them combined in a PPR league, and I got 25 from Wentz, and the other two got hurt. Yeah, it was brutal. It sucked.
So Alshon, Deshaun, and Goddard all got hurt.
Yeah, and Wentz got hurt during the game too. They had to take him out. It was just everyone. It was crazy.
It was a weird game. Yeah, the Falcons. It's another where the Falcons win that game. They should have won by more. I still think Matt Ryan's really struggling. I don't think he's what he once was.
The Eagles played him hard. The Eagles fought back.
Eagles defense is still really good.
Wentz had a good second half. He's showing up as a second half quarterback. It seems like, And I after they scored, I was like, okay, I think this. And then they end up calling that defensive coordinator loves those all-in blitzes and. Fourth and four.
Jim Schwartz is one of the most aggressive play callers in the league. It's insane. It's
like
live or
die.
Aspects, it's live or die. Like
you can't bring the house and then leave Julio Jones out there to run a 60-yard touchdown.
And he seems to call the same defense for better or worse. He's super aggressive, and against some teams that's great because you can man up with your corners. With Julio, you might want to tone it down.
And even Matt Ryan, he saw what was happening, changed the play at the line, and called the perfect play, and they ran it to the house. I mean, it's good. It's good to run plays like that, but you gotta have some sort of backup when you have a smart quarterback up front, because they'll just pick you apart. And
whether Ryan's teetering on old age or not, he's definitely one of the more intelligent quarterbacks in the league. So. He's going to be able to play your defense to the best.
I'm not as low on the Falcons as people are right now, it seems.
I think they won. I'm not low on them. I
think them coming back against the Eagles and winning that game does make somewhat of a statement. Yep. Julio and Ridley's fantasy production, same thing with Hooper too. It's still good. Running game is not going for them right now, but that's because of their offensive line issues. They have time to work out those O-line issues. I see it as... if a team's starting poorly and is battling, Falcons could be the team that rises up.
I like Ridley a lot.
And if I'm the Falcons and I'm 1-1, I'm okay with that record with this starting. I mean, they got some easier games coming up. Yeah, the Eagles have some interesting things too. They got some nice young talent. They're not really using it.
Yeah, but I mean, they're the best team in that division, so I can see them.
Man, you are a comedy riot this week, James. All right, the big game, Monday Night
Football.
Browns versus Jets. Browns
how
win.
did they book that?
Because of what the Browns got in the offseason. Yeah. Browns 23, Jets 3. The best people said we put all these expectations on the Browns that they just didn't deserve. I do think they deserved it a little. OBJ looks great.
Yeah,
Baker does not look great,
but OBJ makes him look great.
Yeah, that offense should make you look great. Nick Chubb was a beast. Bell cow finally. OBJ is awesome, and Jarvis Landry's a great slot guy, second receiver. Yeah. The Jets are terrible.
The Jets are so bad.
They were on like Le'Veon Bell as their quarterback.
I really think they, with their quarterback situation, they're going to end up worse than the Giants.
I don't think that's a bold. Yeah. Their offense is going to run through Le'Veon.
He got the ball a lot.
But
he looked good.
Yeah. He's been a pleasant surprise, but they don't have the receivers to help out a young quarterback. They don't have an offensive line to help out a young quarterback.
They don't have a quarterback.
So you're going to put in, and the funny thing is they got rid of everybody.
Yeah,
they thought Darnold was their guy. So, and then Simeon immediately goes down with an injury. They're in a rough spot.
Yeah.
It's one of those situations where, you shouldn't have anybody on the Jets.
The Jets, they're just having the same picks they have every year. They'll have a top 6 pick.
Yep.
But I do not think the Browns look good. They won 23-3. They have,
they're drastically underperforming where the hype was at. And it's not just a little bit, it's a significant amount. Yeah. I'm curious to see what happens the next couple weeks because Jets defense is actually pretty good, even though they were missing a few key pieces. And they face the Titans in week 1. So I want to I don't have a clear read on Cleveland, but I know they're not near where they were hyped at.
And the biggest part of that is Baker. I don't think Baker's playing up to his full potential. I think I said it last week. I think he's trying to do what he did in college and be flashy.
But I think it's also Kitchens.
Yeah, the play calling's not great. Yeah,
exactly.
This week they leaned on Chubb a lot more, which is the smart thing to do, and you got OBJ in space. So those are smart things. I don't think the play calling's great. I think Baker's making a lot of bad reads and throwing a lot of balls he shouldn't even be throwing. Those are things you can correct. Their defense is starting to look good. Myles Garrett looked like a monster. Myles Garrett looked awesome. So if you're going to get that kind of pass rush out of Myles Garrett, your defense is going to look better and better every week. So,
well, that was a fun week, guys.
Yeah. So any things you observed or anything you really that we didn't go into? The only thing I say is that's Chiefs' second quarter for me was why they're the most. That was why they're the most dangerous team in the league. Like the Patriots, Cowboys, other teams are good. That second quarter for the Chiefs is one of those things where I saw. Now, if you were watching it, you're just like, man, they're really, really good. And I don't know how you stop them at some point.
Well, and same with the Patriots. I mean, that's going to be the – do they play in the regular season, Patriots and Chiefs?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I mean, that's going to be a matchup.
Chiefs won their division last year, right?
Yeah. So they probably defaced it. That's going to be the matchup I'm looking for. Because to me, those are the two best teams, and it's not – I don't really see anything that's particularly close.
Even more exciting is we have Dan and Treb playing each other this week.
You're going down.
And Treb, I'm a big fan. I hope you
all right. Yeah,
put this beast to rest.
What?
And maybe
did I do something to you this week?
No, I want to win the division.
There might be some trades in the pipeline. We'll have to see what happens. Shake
Mark Andrews team block.
My team has not lived up to potential, and I'm still 1-1. So when I'm 2-1, I'll be very pleased.
Yeah, but maybe next year you'll be 2-1 because you're losing this week.
Not doubtful.
Good luck this week, everybody.
I got nothing. Sorry.